Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Stumper Wild. In this episode, we're going to discuss different fire options, different types of wood and what they do, how they affect your smoke, how they'll affect your fire, how to put it out, some quick cooking tips like packing, and then we're also going to be sharing something pretty special. I'm going to share 2 different ways to purify salt water, as well as how to adjust your tarp for some survival situations or comforts. So stick around.
Hang with us until the end and I'm going to show everything I put in my smallest first aid kit. By this point, you know the drill. We found a spot and it's time to set everything up. I've brought Caesar with me, as well as everything from the last 2 episodes, and the tent, in case you were wondering what that blue thing was. I wanted to do a full setup including the tent today because I wanted to see how prepared I am for the next season. And if you stay with me so far, most of these preparations are for the next season because I do intend on doing 24, 48, and potentially longer challenges. And I'll be bringing you along the way. No good site is complete without a fire. There are 3 main things that a fire requires: heat, oxygen, and fuel. Without either of these 3 things, it will die.
If you remember back in school, they might have told you something about deciduous and coniferous trees. So deciduous would be like this oak tree here. And then you have coniferous, which would be the pine tree. Coniferous trees or pine trees will burn black smoke. They burn a little bit easier, they burn a little bit longer. They're good for smoldering, but yeah, they do cause a lot of black smoke. So if you're stealth camping and you don't want people to know where you are, I don't recommend pine needles or pine trees of any sort. Spruces. You always want to use dry oak, maple, things like that.
Even in the sand, I'm still going to dig a hole, and I'll show you why in a moment. We're going to utilize some dry foliage we gathered earlier, make a simple bird's nest. Luckily, where I'm currently at, there's a lot of fallen limbs and broken twigs that I can easily have access to. Some sites might not be so lucky, so it's always good to think ahead and bring some things that are burnable with you if that's the case. Another thing you're going to want to consider is how you're going to carry it a longer distance, but I'll show that in another episode. I'm still a beginner with the ferro rod, so I do use hand sanitizer. I do want to be as transparent as possible so that we can learn together. I'm not stealth camping, so the smoke isn't a concern. So far, we've seen a few tips on how to start a fire. What about putting it out? If you remember me mentioning before, it requires 3 things: fuel, heat, and oxygen. If you remove any one of those 3, it's going to go out. Water eliminates the fuel. You can also take away the oxygen. If you're a fan of Jurassic Park, you know this is going to get rid of the smoke quicker. It's funny how you can learn things from entertainment. Now let's look at 3 ways you can set up your tarp. I got this lightweight tarp originally for a hammock, and I also got these stakes. They're really lightweight. You can use sticks if you don't have them. I roll them up with the tarp and I don't even notice they're there. I'll leave a link in the description. The tarp I have has these eyelets that you can slip a string through. I like to utilize these eyelets to save on the material use, which is key when every little ounce adds up in your pack. This one is an A-frame. It's really simple. Just tie your rope or string to the middle and add 4 stakes on each corner. I like this setup because it's quick to get out of the rain, and it's also great to adjust in case your temporary stay becomes not so temporary. I know this next setup is called something else, but I like to call it a sideways 7 because by the time you're finished, that's pretty much what it looks like.
This one definitely is a nice spot to lay down. all of this delay, protected from the rain, and it feels pretty warm because the heat's here, but there is a bit of wind. So if you had some wind blowing, I'd probably put it on the other side, not this way. And guys, I just started trying this, so I'm pretty much a beginner. If I can do it, you can do it.
The whole point of this is because it's a single item with a bunch of versatility, and you never know when you're going to be stuck somewhere for longer than a day. We know not all tarps have eyelets, and if they do, they're not in the right place. Here's a quick tip on how to tie it up if it doesn't have any, or if you want to change the position. Make sure the object you're using, such as a stick, doesn't have anything that will poke a hole in the tarp. For this next setup, I need about a foot from the edge, so I'm going to wrap the tarp around it like this, and then I'm going to take my rope or string, and I'm going to wrap it about 2 or 3 times, followed by a simple knot, pretty much like tying your shoelaces, just one time. Pull it tight, and you can see it holds. When tying to the tree, I like to use a simple quick release knot.
Now I'm going to take this, over like this, go the other way. Okay, now we got pretty strong set up. I'm going to go ahead and tie it. I like to leave this nice big loop here. Hang it all the way, because that'll pull when it comes out.
Don't worry, I'll go more in depth on the next episode. Let's get to the next setup. This is the same as the A-frame, except it's a foot off the edge and only 2 stakes off the back corners. This setup is really good for trapping in the heat from your fire. Just make sure not to get it too close so the smoke doesn't get trapped by this flap. You want the heat, not the smoke.
Well, there you have it. 3 different tarp setups.
Now that we've discussed fire and set up 3 tarp setups, let's move on to the next thing, cooking. We're going to make today's episode a little bit simpler. I'm going to show you how I pack most of my stuff up. It's really easy. These are the materials that I almost always have with me. It's an airtight container with small bottles filled with honey, pepper, angelica, cinnamon, salt, and a little bit of butter. I also like to bring along another cup that you can boil in, just to have a little extra convenience. I know the last video might have made you a little bit hungry, but this one, we're going to go for convenience. Let's stick it to it. As nice as the tea was, I wish I had found these berries earlier. These are known as cat briar berries. They're edible, and they have a tarty taste to them. They grow on an ivy. Just watch out for the large singular seed in the middle, and I do believe you can even eat the leaves. We always recommend multiple sources of information before eating anything in the wild. As you know, food is vital, but there's one thing that's more important, and that's water. Let's imagine you're on the beach, and you've used everything. You could down a bottle of bourbon, but that's just going to make you more thirsty. Let's put these bottles to a better use. You're going to need 2, so I recommend finding one. This is my first time trying these 2 different variations of saltwater purification. Taking one of the 2 bottles to collect salt water, of course. You only want to fill it to the point where it's laying sideways and it doesn't spill out. Next, you're going to want to position them to where the one bottle that's in the fire is just slightly higher at an incline than the one that's in the sand. The one that's in the sand is going to be cooler. The one in the fire is going to heat up and boil the water. the condensation will trap to the top of the bottle and leak into the second one laying in the sand. You remember the hat trick from the last episode. This will help to quickly bring the bottle up to temperature of boiling. Make sure there's as little space as possible between the two lips of the bottles. You're going to want to be patient though, because if you get it too hot, it's going to explode. This one's boiling, and it looks like it's capturing condensation. Let's see what we got. The bottle is going to be really hot once you first pull it out. This first catch appeared to not be very much water, so I put it back, but
Trying this for a bit longer, it got too hot. The bottle exploded.
let's try what we got anyway.
Time for the little freshwater taste test here. It's fresh. That's fresh water. That's fresh water. It tastes a little bit like the bourbon, but
Needless to say, I was excited. So let's try the next one. This one's a little bit simpler. Just fill up your cooking stove with salt water. Using 3 sticks, make a tripod. I used a bandana in my tripod set here. I tied 2 of the corners together to get this triangular shape that I'm showing you. And then all I do is I wrap it around one of them. Now tie the other 2 corners to the other 2 sticks. It'll look like this. Now we wait for it to boil. The steam is going to go up into the rag. The rag is going to collect it, and then you just wring it out into the bottle. Although this looked really effective, I was curious as to why I couldn't get as much water. But then it dawned on me. First, I tried putting it a little bit closer and let time go by. Caesar thinks it's ready, but I believe we're going to let it sit a little bit longer, just to make double sure.
Since this is a bandana and it's made for your head, I guess it has a moisture wicking material, so it stayed really dry. I'll be doing this again in a future episode with a different fabric to see if it works a little bit better. But that's 2 methods that you can try.
There is a third method we'll try later on. But for now, it's been a while and it's time to take our site down. I know it doesn't seem like I give much information when it comes to packing up. That's because every bag is going to be different. The only thing I can tell you is the main aspects, which is going to be that the heaviest stuff needs to be in the middle, the most used stuff needs to be on top, and the less used stuff needs to be on the bottom. I can say one thing though. The more you know, the lighter everything gets. After doing some of my own research, I came across one of these keychain ideas from another channel. I'll link it in the description. But this is my own take on it. At first, it may seem really appealing to throw anything you can think of into a first aid kit, but really all you need is some antibiotic ointment, a bandage, repellent because mosquitoes kill more than anything, these waterproof matches with cotton, this paper clip wrapped in monofilament and tape, also braided fishing line with a fishing hook taped as well, a small sandwich bag for water collection. I may change this to a balloon later, as the elasticity will allow for more water and less space. Also, this folding knife I got from a nail clipping kit. As for that piece of foil, I just keep some Tylenol and iodine tablets for water purification. 1 liter per tablet. As neat as this is, and convenient as it can be, it is kind of difficult to get everything to fit, so you may have to try a few times. But once you do, you have a permanent first aid kit that you can carry around with you, anywhere. I've personally used it twice.
Well guys, really hope you enjoyed this episode. Caesar and I are going to enjoy this sunset and head on back. If you liked anything you saw, if you got any new tips or anything that you're going to use in the future, be sure to comment, like, subscribe, do all those fun things for me. Till then.
Don't worry, I'm not going to let you miss out on the sunset.